Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
Hey, it's me, Egbert. E-G-G-B-U-R-T. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
You know what? We've not mentioned at all that today is Super Tuesday. We have neglected to mention that because of the fact that even though it doesn't make that much difference, Nikki Haley's still in it. Supposedly, this is going to be the last day because
you're right. It is. Yeah, Brad, until you mentioned that,
Super Tuesday.
I completely forgot that it's Super Tuesday. Our friend Camelia Peterson points out that it's Libertarian Day.
Is it really?
She's listening on the stream and she says she wanted to wish us a happy Libertarian Day.
It's my day.
So Brad, you better not drive on any roads. You better not use any public services because people you're paying for that with your taxpayer money. Libertarians are wrong about that.
That's
Brad.
Not what libertarians are about, John. Once again, I say, by the way, the John Lamping thing is pretty funny, but because of the fact that apparently he was listening, I don't think he listened live yesterday, he listened to the podcast, and he criticized me for making fun of Klondike Park, so in St. Charles County. Once again, let me be clear. Who used to say that all the time? Was that Obama used to say, let me to be clear? Some of you always just said,
let me be clear.
Lamping's
point is that we don't need, he doesn't need a bunch of hooligans coming in and discovering how great that park is.
Well, it's a beautiful park in St. Charles County that nobody goes to. It's just like, I will tell you that, and I was just by there the other day. I should have driven through there. I've done this before where I've driven through the park and seen nobody. I mean, like 0 people in the park. It's a beautiful park if you don't know the history of it. And actually, it's sort of a weird story that it was an old quarry, the Klondike Quarry. It's right there on, matter of fact, it's as you're coming south or west on 94, whichever way you look at it. It's the big old hill you come up right before you go up to Montel, where the what's the family name, the
Hermanoff?
No. The great saviors of Augusta are now selling everything off.
The Hoffmans.
The Hoffmans cut down all the trees at the Montel Winery. And by the way, John Lamping is a big supporter of, or not supporter, but he says he was on the interview with Channel. Do you know this about? He was interviewed on Channel 5 about all the stuff that came out by the Hoffmans. And he's,
yeah. Well, he was, and the Post-Dispatch grabbed him too. For
right, and he essentially said things are much better in Augusta.
Yeah, and now the interesting thing, one more thing about Klondike Park, when they originally got their funding, there was a big debate about whether they could buy the land, and the guy that sponsored the bill said, "What would you do for a Klondike Park?" And it passed unanimously. Hey, can we talk about bear for a minute?
Well, hold on. Let me just make one comment.
Oh, I bet you got a sound effect.
No, the Klondike Park thing. Okay, now I'm going to get in trouble when I say this, but if you go back to the history of Klondike Park, it used to be owned by, and this is not me saying this was told to me by several people who lived in that area, it was owned by 2 gay guys. Did you know this story?
No, I did not. Is one of them named Sean P. Diddy Combs, and the other one is Meek Mill?
No, I don't know who they were. But supposedly there used to be a mailbox out there, and I drove by a couple of times because I used to drive up and down 94 all the time and saw a couple of them. And the whole park was owned by 2 gay guys who bought the property for practically nothing and built a very, very fancy house that they lived in. And that's now the house that you can rent for like wedding receptions and stuff like that. Otherwise, Klondike Park is nothing but for like camping. There's a couple, shelters that you can rent, and you can have like a party underneath like a shelter, that kind of stuff. But
so
anyway,
what you're saying, Brad, is that at Klondike Park for a while there were at least 3 big sinkholes.
John, I'm not going to touch that. Okay, let's move on to what you were going to talk about. You were going to talk about, and you've sidetracked me again because I want to talk about Steve Garvey. Here, let me.
I love Steve Garvey. Has he been in the news?
Oh, you don't know the Steve Garvey story?
No, I don't.
Oh my, John.
All right, let's touch on that. Let me touch on the bear stuff, and then we'll get to Steve Garvey.
I am utterly in shock that you don't know about the Steve Garvey thing because.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was just traded from the Dodgers to the Padres. I mean, I saw that headline here in the 80s.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, go ahead, do your Monsanto story, and then we'll touch on the Steve Garvey thing.
Yeah, so big major local employer Bayer has its capital markets day today in Germany, where they're rolling out. And here's the big news that came from it, Brad. We talked about this before. There's a group of investors that really want the company to spin off its ag department. So that's the crop science division, which is based here in St. Louis. Thousands of jobs are based in crop science here in North America. The company CEO came out today and said the answer, it sounds like a woman talking to you about a date, Brad, said the answer is currently no, but that doesn't mean never. Okay? So he said that the company will not spin off the ag division. Again, crop science based here in St. Louis will not spin it off for at least 3 years. So the company wants to go through layoffs. Again, it's been branded as dynamic shared ownership, which is one of the greatest layoff brandings I've ever heard, if not the best. And the company will take 3 years of cuts, try to get its act together, so to speak, and then decide if it wants to spin off the crop science department. In earnings that were announced today, the big loser among divisions was crop science. So that does not bode well for for crop science employees here in St. Louis. The sales were down 1% to 3% in crop science. And then we've mentioned kind of the shareholder aspect of this before, Brad, but it's important because so many employees here may have chosen to take stock, as part of an employee share purchase program. Bayer stock is down 50% in the last year. The benchmark, the S&P 500, is up about 26.74% to be exact. So in other words, if you're an old Monsanto guy and then you converted, let's say that you bought into the employee share program and you thought you wanted to be a Bayer shareholder too, if you're down 50%, Brad, you have to be up 100% just to get to break even.
Okay,
so as I reminded my former coworkers a long time ago when Bayer rolled out its employee share purchase program and offered a discount on stock, one of my favorite financial sayings, Brad, a bargain that remains a bargain is not a bargain. So if you're going to work, I think it's instructive. If you're going to work for a publicly traded company and you believe in their vision, then being a part of a share ownership program can be a great idea. If not, remember, and a bargain that remains a bargain maybe was never actually a bargain.
If Dave Ramsey were here right now, he'd have you thrown off the air.
I hope so.
Because he is the guy who says, that's how you get rich. You invest in your company you work for. Buy the 401k.
And imagine, and you know what? The 401k is, of course, a great option if you have the ability to make your own investment decisions.
Right.
So instead, can you imagine, Brad, if you're a woman here in St. Louis, and let's say you worked for Bayer for a few years and you got $50,000 in Bayer stock, and you go to your husband or your boyfriend, or hey, we're progressive. You go to your wife, if you're a woman, and you say, hey, just want to let you know, honey, I logged in and we're down 50%, but don't worry. We only have to double the value now to get back to break even.
Well, here's a question for you. Prior to Bayer buying Monsanto, were they in the crop sciences business?
Yes, they were. So they were largely, they did sell seed, and then they sold a lot of what our euphemism is, which is crop protection, which think herbicides, pesticides, or I should say more specifically, herbicides, insecticides, fungicides. So Bayer was in the crop science business, but they were a relatively minor player. And then when they acquired Monsanto at an elevated price, thank God, the company became the agribusiness giant. And remember that Bayer also, of course, has consumer, you can buy Bayer products at the store. You can buy Afrin. You can buy, and they also have a pharma division as well.
See, there's two buildings that are within about 2 miles of each other, which still tick me off. And one of them is the Bayer building, the new one they built over there on Olive. Interestingly enough, on the north side of Olive. You know what I'm talking about?
That's formerly North Campus. Yeah, I believe the company sold North Campus, though, years ago.
Okay. That and the Alberici construction building right there at Page and 170. Because, once again, if you and I, at our house, let our grass grow 3 feet tall, we would have a code enforcement officer hauling us into court, okay? Mm-hmm. But yet, Alberici and Bayer can let the grass grow, and they put up a sign that says, prairie restoration in progress.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Brad. Brad, don't you believe in native grasses and pollinators? Why are you so anti-pollinator?
Can I, if I told the story one time about a meeting I had with a mayor of a local municipality who cussed at me, and this is not in St. Charles County, this is St. Louis County. I've got a good rapport with most of the St. Charles County mayors. But this was a mayor when I brought up the fact that why is it that Alberici can get away with not cutting their grass, and he's telling me that he's going to throw me in jail because my grass is a foot tall. And he essentially said to me, if your place becomes LEED blanking certified platinum, you can grow your blanking grass as tall as you blanking want to. So the idea being is, do you know what LEED certification is?
Yeah, have you been in the Alberici building?
Well, I've been in the Alberici building before it was the Alberici building. How about that?
Yeah, I went in there right after it was LEED certified. Gotta say, was pretty impressive. But then I also I remember thinking like, wow, this is pretty much all you need. Like, why would you build a building today that's not LEED certified and then you're just immune from everything?
Well, the crazy thing about that is they did all sorts of weird stuff. For example, they put the windmill up, and the windmill, if I'm not mistaken, is the only one in the St. Louis area. Why is that the case? Because it's been proven that we don't have enough wind. You know, it's just
Brad, it's symbolism over substance.
Well, but
it's
John,
it's showing that they care about renewable energy, Brad.
An Alberici employee told me this story, which you're not going to believe, which is he told me, and I believe him. I asked him, why was it that they put up that windmill and then 6 months later they took it down and put up another one? You know what the answer to that question was?
It was killing too many birds.
No, because of the fact that they were bordering on the edge of being gold and platinum certified. Gold would be like the next level down. Platinum is like the top level. Gold is like the second level. It's not like the Olympics. And they were on the border between gold and platinum. And they figured out that if they put a windmill up, but not just any windmill, an old windmill that they bought on the used market and repurposed it for them, that gave them enough points to become LEED certified.
Nice.
So,
and what people don't know is they bought it from the Bevo Mill.
Yeah, so after they put the thing up and essentially got their stupid platinum certification, then they tore it down and put up a new one. Okay,
nice.
Quickly.
Nice. That's what it's all about. Brad, it's all about the symbolism of that stuff. By the way, I would point out real quick, and the good thing, though, even if you're down on Bayer, exactly to your point, Brad, the last paragraph of the dismal earnings release says, Bayer continued to deliver on its sustainability strategy, and especially in terms of reducing its ecological footprint. So sorry, employees, your stock is down 50%. You need a double to get back to break even, but we improved our ecological footprint. That's worth something.
Who cares if
that and $7 will get you a cup of Starbucks.
Right. Who cares if you're not making any money and you got to borrow money to put your kids into school and stuff like that. Ecologically we're doing great. Okay, quickly. Steve Garvey is running for the open seat that is currently being filled by, I don't know who it is, but he is running for the U.S. Senate seat, and today is the jungle primary in California. He's running against our buddy Adam Schiff. And
nice.
The interesting thing is that there's 4 people running, and the way the jungle primary works in California, it's not a political party. They take all the people in the primary. There could be 100 people in the primary. The top 2 vote getters go on to the general election in November. Him and Schiff are essentially locks to make it into the November. And let me give you a couple quotes. This is a great quote. This is Steve Garvey. The people of California who've been suppressed by one party are saying they're mad. They're not going to take it anymore, said the longtime Dodgers first baseman. And he goes on to say, there are career politicians who failed the people, and it's time for a change. A fresh young face, which I think is interesting. Young, I think he's in his 60s.
He does have a fresh face.
Right. With new ideas. Somebody that knows that he can make a difference, and I think the people believe I can. Right now, he's in a statistical tie against opponent Adam Schiff. They both have 27% of the voters, which means that they will essentially, there's two other people in the race, and they will almost assuredly go forward and face off in November. And there are political soothsayers like yourself who's saying Steve Garvey, and he's running as a Republican, has a good chance to boot our buddy Adam Schiff out of the. I mean, is that incredible or what?
I saw a clip a while back on social media of Steve Garvey standing on stage, and I thought he was just debating. I thought he was debating somebody for fun. I didn't know that he was running for the Senate.
Yeah,
it shows how little attention I paid to coastal politics. I mean, I hated him when he played for the Padres, Brad. I have to say.
And he's doing very well. And once again, if you've ever listened to the guy, he's sort of a down to earth. He's good-looking guy. He's very, very well spoken. And to the point where, I mean, what he's saying. If you go and read the interview, he talks about how he goes on to say, once I started running, started listening to my common sense, compassion, consensus building plea. He says, well, let me fight crime in the streets for you. Let me try to get the homeless off the streets and get care for them. Let me help fight the border. By the way, the cartels are the true terrorists. They're the ones that infiltrate. They organize. It's the true war against America. I'm going like, yeah, Steve Garvey. Go Steve Garvey. You know?
There's no way there's nowhere the they is going to let him win. They're going to dump so much money into the Democrat there.
Yeah, and they're going to come out with all sorts of nasty stuff. They're going to say he was in the Congress, the House of Representatives building on January 6th, even though he wasn't.
Teammates with Gary Templeton. Don't forget that, Brad. We got to go.
Yeah, we're way over. Okay.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?